Gregory Shepard, an entrepreneur who's built and sold 12 businesses, a recipient of 4 private equity awards, TEDx speaker, and Forbes author. This is the Boss Podcast with Gregory Shepard.
Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, all have accomplished amazing things. Legendary visionaries. But visionaries need to be leaders to drive results. This week, I wanted to take a break from talking to investors, entrepreneurs, and CEOs and talk a little bit about leadership. I have an epic guest joining me today, professional basketball coach Phil Weber. Phil has guided teams everywhere from New York, Phoenix, and all the way to India. He's a leadership consultant for the NBA Players Association and the author of the upcoming book, How Do You Make 'Em Thirsty? Phil, thanks for joining me today.
Greg, thanks so much for having me. Thanks so much.
Before we talk about leadership, Phil, can you tell us the inspiration behind the book that you're coming out with? How do you make them thirsty?
You know, having consumed, I don't know how many, I don't say this to impress you, but I guess more so to impress upon you, hundreds of books on the science of personal achievement is, you know, it's been a journey for me. But I didn't think I had a platform for it. It wasn't until I actually heard another podcast where the person said that, you know, that phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And then he posed the question, but how do you make him thirsty? And
that's brilliant.
So Greg, what happened was every player is different. Every organization is different. There's different cultures. Hopefully what I've done is been able to help others believe in themselves so that they're able to be the best version of themselves. So it wasn't until I heard that title that it resonated with me. Maybe I do have a message to help people to improve, to look at themselves differently. And so I ventured off. I wrote an outline, and it really actually went quickly.
I love the title. You mentioned cultures. What cultures have impacted you the most during your time being a coach in your coaching career, and then why?
It starts from the top down. When you guide a company that you're helping, it always starts from the top. And they can implement core values. They can set the stage for what everybody else does. I've been impacted by, probably more so than anything else, was the Miami Heat most recently. It flowed from Mickey Arison and Pat Riley's vision in the mid-90s. And, you know, Coach Eric Spoelstra now seamlessly has been able to keep it going. All a culture really are the stories that the main people tell. That's all they are. That's really all it is. And let me give you an example. So in the playoffs, Udonis Haslem, who was a player for the Heat, longtime player, one of their main guys, his jersey will go up in the rafters in American Airlines Arena. But he hadn't played because he's later in his career. And for 2 months, he hadn't gotten in a game. Now it's the playoffs. All of a sudden, because of injuries, because of foul trouble during the game, Eric Spoelstra had to put him in. And he went in there, and in his minutes, whatever minutes those were, got some rebounds, got some points, but he played well. And they ended up winning the game, and it was probably a game that Dwayne Wade had. Yeah, Dwayne Wade probably had 30 and 15, and LeBron had whatever. But the first thing after the game, Coach talks, Spo talks, and the first thing that he'll talk about is how, you know, look at UD, his nickname, you know, look at UD. He came in every day knowing that he wasn't necessarily going to play, but he worked harder than almost anybody in here. His attitude was absolutely tremendous, and when that time came for him to contribute and be ready, he was there, and that is what the Heat culture is all about.
So speaking of core values and culture, what do you feel are the most important core values for a quality culture?
Well, you know, again, I'm going to take a page out of the Heat's book in that they had 5 main core values: family, sacrifice, be accountable, commit to greatness, and compete with class. But the fruit of that, Greg, I think is the most important thing of it. In their culture, and they value family, meaning that some people there have been there, unheard of 25 years, unheard of. And the people in their culture have one agenda. There's no hidden agendas and, what is it for me and stuff. Now, everybody wants to succeed and everybody wants to improve, but they all feel safe. And
Mm-hmm.
when you feel safe, you're able to flourish. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody is pulling in the same direction.
When you say
And
feel safe, are you saying like feel safe to make mistakes, feel safe to go for it, that kind of thing, or can you
absolutely,
unpack? Okay.
absolutely. Well, all elements of safety. Your job is safe. They're not going to, oh, you make a mistake, they're going to, you've built up that emotional bank account with them,
Mm.
where it's huge. And
Mm-hmm.
when you are in that, and, we were dating at the time, but now my wife, she just knows about that culture and she felt it. She just felt the
Interesting.
difference. Yeah, you
So
can
that's like a
feel it.
family, right? Because
Well,
a
it's
family's going to forgive
absolutely.
you, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
That's
absolutely.
great. So let me ask you this. So how would you describe your leadership style?
I've heard so many quality quotes that I really try to embody, and I think I don't try. I guess I should restate that, because we don't ever try to do anything. We either do or we don't. We always get a result. It's not what you preach that matters. It's what you tolerate that defines you as a leader.
Mm.
So you better be mindful of what goes on under your leadership. You better understand that if you allow it, then you're promoting it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really mindful of that. I also feel that, there's a certain element of comfort that you have to create. Not necessarily easygoing, but you have to be personable. I'll take a
Mm-hmm.
page from Mike D'Antoni, who I would work with for 10 years with the Knicks and with the Phoenix Suns. And what he would do every single day is he would walk in to practice, and I would watch him as he would touch up every single one of the players. He would touch them
Huh.
up, meaning he would say, "You okay? Everything good? How you feeling today?" Maybe joke with one or two, but do you see what that resembles? It
Yeah,
resembles
it
a
makes them
safety.
accessible.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it
that
also
safety
it
thing you
also
mentioned.
it's the safety, and that, hey, you're a person. All leaders lead people. You have to have I think you have to have a very high emotional intelligence to be a great leader.
Right. So I heard something that I say a lot, and that is that people work for people. They don't work for teams. They don't work for companies, and they don't work for products. They work for other people. So I think like the connection between making yourself accessible provides the safety, right? And then the safety provides the accessibility, and these two things allow somebody to allow you to lead somebody because they're willing to follow.
No question. It was funny because coaching in Phoenix for 9 years, and then I was Mike's first hire with the New York Knicks, and my buddies were killing me. Even though I was from New York, they're going, "Oh man, dude, you're getting ready for some cold winters." And what my standard reply was, "But Mike is my weather." And what he
Ah.
does is he creates a culture, an environment of winning. And I know what I'm going into every single day. And to me, there's no other better thing than when you wake up every day, you love what you do and who you're working with, and you're in the foxhole together.
So that whole concept of like wanting to follow because you have a good leader, you're saying part of that is giving people a monitored sort of expectation, right? So they're not going to be surprised when they walk in the door because are they dealing with Abbott or Costello that day, right?
Yeah, you know what's so interesting, and I won't use any names, okay, because I don't want to presume to do anything. But I heard something interesting about what you just touched on, and that is, let's say, for instance, a person only 5% of the time is absolutely maniacal and has anger issues. Only 5%. And the
Hmm.
other 95% is the nicest person in the world. But guess what? That personality is 100% controlling because you are always worried about that 5%.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Because it's unpredictable.
Yeah, if you're in Florida and you don't know, you're out running and you don't know when that afternoon shower is coming, but you may get drenched.
Yeah, exactly right. And if you're a player, right, and you get in, you're like, okay, is the coach in a good? Who am I dealing with? Right?
Exactly. Consistency is key.
Uh-huh.
We would have a saying. Now we were really successful in Phoenix, and we averaged 60 wins. And some people say that the way we played, thankfully, because Mike's leadership and Steve Nash and a host of young talented players, that we kind of changed the game a little bit in the NBA. But we had a saying that we don't get too high and we don't get too low. This too shall pass. Those are 4 words that are true, good and bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I have to
So,
tell myself that all the time, actually. No.
yeah. Well, they're powerful words, and it's so true. But embracing that even keel approach. Now, it doesn't deviate from the level of intensity that you want to play at and all that different things. That should always be at a high level, right? But you just whatever comes at you, hey, you deal with it and you move on.
So I want to talk about this. So in business, if you were to sort of compare like coaching to business, you have the head coach, that's like the CEO. And then underneath that, you have the assistants and they're like the different functional area leaders, right? That specialize
Correct.
in different things. And in business and in athletics, they share this commonality where you're dealing with super highly exceptional individuals, right? So even exceptional individuals need that extra kick sometimes. So
Yes.
when you're in a situation where, people get worn out, people get burned out, that kind of stuff happens even to the best. What do you do at that point to motivate them and motivate the team to step it up?
I think you need to celebrate small victories when you see them doing something, just because you know that those moments may be coming down the pike. I think there needs to be a level of preparation for the moments, like the great ones thrive in the boredom, the pain, and the frustration. They
Mm,
thrive in that. They know it's coming. They're willing participants to go through it with vigor,
mm,
and understanding that and preparing them for that before. So then when you get to that moment in time, here we are. Okay, this is what we talked about.
yeah.
This too shall pass. This is just a point in time that we're going to get past. And when we get through this plateau, I mean, it's going to be amazing. But I really think confidence, instilling confidence and catching them doing things correctly, where you're developing a deeper and deeper relationship.
Ooh, that's a good one. I've noticed in athletic teams and in non-performing athletic teams and non-performing business teams that they're focused more on what people are doing wrong and they're paying attention to that than what they're doing right and celebrating those successes, which you brought up earlier. I think that that's really wise. I just wanted to call it out so people that are listening just pay attention to that. Let me ask you this question. When it comes to your work and as a leader, how do you sort of measure your own performance at work? How do you get the benchmark of where you are, measuring where you are up against your own performance? How do you figure out that gauge as a leader?
In coaching, I think it would be by a player's improvement.
Mm,
And from a team concept, you're always evaluating yourself. Every single game, you're painstakingly going over that to see how you improved, or you did that work, that didn't work. Why didn't I see that? To me, one of the most powerful things I've ever learned is that questions direct. Are you empowered or disempowered? I don't know. What kind of questions do you ask yourself? So as I'm watching a game that I just helped coach, I'm looking at all our decisions prior to that and then judging it against the preparation.
mm.
And can I ask a better question about how to prepare? How can I prepare differently? Questions are, right now, and to go into my little shtick from Dennis Waitley, The Psychology of Winning. Right now,
Oh my God, I love Dennis Waitley.
Oh, it was,
He
I
was
lived,
amazing. Yeah.
I lived with his book in my car I wore out those tapes,
Yeah, a
and
lot of people forgot about Dennis Whaley, but he was amazing. Olympic coach. That guy's,
yes. So
psychology of
right,
winning. I love that. Yeah.
so right now, Greg, stop thinking. You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't, you're thinking to yourself in 6 to 800 words a minute. You can't stop thinking. You can't do it. And of those thoughts, a lot are questions, a lot are habitual questions. My question to you is, are they empowering or disempowering? I
Hmm.
ask, I ask the question, if there's two people, and the same horrible thing happened to them, horrible thing, two different sides of the country, let's say. One person says, why did he have to do that to me? Well, guess what? Ask and ye shall receive. You're going to get an answer. You're going to, and it's spiraled down because it's a bad answer, because now you're going into blame and into all those other negative emotions. Now, the other person on the other coast, let's say, same horrible thing happened to him. All of a sudden, that person says, how can I use this to inspire myself or help me get to another level?
Hmm.
Same thing. The obstacle sometimes is the way. It really is.
So when you look at this idea of measuring your own performance, I think the takeaway, I'm just confirming that the takeaway that I got is that your performance as a leader is judged by how well the people you're leading perform.
No question. No question.
Yeah.
That's just like all these tech leaders right now are going to be judged on the efficiency and the productivity,
Yeah.
and the profitability of their companies.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's
mean,
mine's people.
yeah,
How
it's the
they
score,
perform.
right? In
Yeah,
the game, it's the score,
yeah.
right? And the difference between you and the competitor, and in business, it's the financial numbers.
Yeah, the only difference, Greg, is CNBC versus ESPN.
Yeah. I think that's a good spot to pause right there. Coming up in part 2 of my interview with Phil Weber, the author of the upcoming book, How Do You Make Them Thirsty? Phil talks about the importance of compassion and empathy.
People under your tutelage, under your leadership, know if you really care. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That is an absolute first building block right there. They have to trust that you trust them.
Thanks for checking out the Boss Podcast with Gregory Shepard. Get more on Greg's business operating support system, Boss, at GregoryShepard.com. This has been a production of Forbes Books Radio.